Hello again, and one more lesson on something that's very important. Basically, it's about plagiarism, and it's unfortunate that I have to have this lecture, but it's a funny thing. In some courses, we get through the year and nobody's plagiarized anything, which is amazing. And in some courses, we've got people plagiarizing on day one, like discussion assignments, and catching them three, four times. You know, just for better safe than sorry, let's do a lesson on plagiarism because you've got this major paper coming up, and I want to make sure that no one even accidentally plagiarizes. Certainly, I haven't seen any of it this term, but let's not get to the finish line and then have a problem. Okay, so really quick and easy lesson on how to avoid plagiarism, which is not just good for this course, but for the rest of your life. So again, questions about this? Normally we do this in class, but think about it on your own. Tell me about your stories about people who have been caught cheating. So think about that now. I'm sure you know people that were cheaters, that were constantly cheating. Maybe maybe it was you. Unfortunately, but hopefully you reformed yourself because A, you're not going to learn anything if you cheat, and B, cheaters always get caught. I'm almost 40, and I know that it's only a matter of time before people get caught cheating or doing stupid things. So just break yourself of that habit if you have it. Okay. What is meant by accidental plagiarism? It's not always intentional. People sometimes forget to put something in quotation marks. They forget to source it, or maybe they heard an idea 10 years ago and they've incorporated it as one of their own ideas and they used it, but actually that's from Socrates. So you got to be careful about accidental plagiarism. How many of you are not 100% sure when to source something? I'm sure there's a significant percentage of you out there that don't know if you should source or not source. The rule of thumb here is when in doubt, put a citation. And what are the penalties at Fanshawe for plagiarism? Maybe you don't know, but for the first offense, and by the way, I've mentioned this from day one, I'm zero tolerance on this. If it happens, I'm going to be submitting an academic offenses form. First offense on your record is usually you get a 0 on the assignment, right? In the warning, and the black mark on your record that stays with you forever at Fanshawe. Second is usually I'm recommending to the dean that you fail the course entirely, right? And it doesn't mean if it's second in my course, it could be you have another record somewhere else. And we professors, we check your records and see if you have a previous infraction. We have to check. So if there's a second, usually you fail the course. Third one, they're usually going to expel you from Fanshawe. And by the way, you won't get your money back. So I know I'm being harsh about this, but it's a serious issue. And it's getting worse over the years. I don't know what's going on, but students think they get away with it. We're getting better at finding it. So tough luck. Okay. How do you use borrowed information correctly? And what's borrowed information? It's any idea or quotation that's not your own. And with exception of common knowledge. What's common knowledge? It's water is wet, fire is hot, right? With the exception of common knowledge, outside of your specialty, you should cite all sources for all borrowed information in your final document. And if you're not sure, then definitely you want to check in with somebody or just err on the side of caution and cite it anyway. We're talking here about citing quotations, so something used verbatim from another person, whether it's they spoke the words or they wrote them down somewhere. Paraphrasing, if you're sort of saying this in a different way, but it's the same idea that you borrowed from someone else, you have to cite that as well. Or if you take a long idea and you summarize it, that's still someone else's idea or a quotation. You have to cite that as well. Examples. Okay, a direct quote. Joan states that cats are the cutest pet. Okay. That's really an opinion. So, it's a weird example, but you have to cite that because it is a direct quote. Someone actually said that, or in this case, wrote about it, because we can see there's a page number. And so if it's word for word, you have to put that in quotation marks. And usually the rule of thumb is 3 or more words in a row that are used from someone else. You gotta cite that. You have to cite when you have an assertion that's arguable or facts are not widely known. So, if you can argue, I don't want to get into specifics, but if there's a fact that's maybe some people disagree with, well, then you probably have to source it, right? or something that's not widely known. So for example, the first documented case of a cat flushing the toilet occurred in 1939, right? That's not common knowledge. It's probably debatable. You should at least tell the reader where you got that information from, right? So they can judge for themselves. Is it relevant information? More examples. So a judgment, which is basically an opinion, or a claim of others. So for example, Jones states that no one can never have too many cats. That's an opinion, right? That's a judgment. If you're using that type of argument or opinion in your paper, then you have to cite it. Also goes for if you have statistics, charts, tables, graphs from anywhere. Unless you created them yourself, you have to cite this. And usually we put the citation underneath the table, chart, or graph, or whatever the picture is, right? What do you not need to document? What do you not need a source for? Well, common knowledge. So again, water is wet, people are strange, totally common knowledge, right? If it's your own findings, again, if it's your own research, you don't need to cite that. Just have to say it's my own work. Or, if you conclude something, if you take all of this information in your paper and all the arguments on the left and the right, and then you make your own conclusion, you can't cite that because that's your own thoughts, right? So that's fine, or if it's your own idea. So for example, if you created this table, no problem, don't need a source, or this chart rather. Why does this matter, right? It's an ethical issue, right? We have to, and we should want to, show the reader where you got your ideas, right? We want to show where our ideas stop and theirs begin. So if you're humming along with your typing in your paper and you're saying all these things you believe, but then you're taking someone else's idea, that's where you open a quotation mark and then you close a quotation mark where that ends, right? We don't want any ambiguity about what's your idea, what's someone else's idea. We don't want to pass ideas off as our own if they're someone else's. You will be seen as a liar, a cheat, a jerk, a thief, right, if you do. So let's avoid that. By the way, in a lot of cases, it's the law, right? Think of copyright law. If you're stealing something from someone, you pull an image, a photo, a line of text, lyrics from a song, you can be sued because someone else created that and they're protected usually legally for using this. At Fanshawe, we have certain exceptions. As a professor, I can use, and as a student, you can use things which is protected under certain copyright laws that protect academics, right? But normally in a business scenario, you have a legal obligation to sort of give credit to where it's due, right? And you might not even be able to use it, even if you get credit. You might have to pay for it. So in general, it's the best idea to seek written permission from someone if you want to use their material, right? Especially their copyrighted material. Okay, summarization. Let's say you're going through your research and you find this brilliant idea and there's a long passage over 2 pages of text that is just perfect. You want to use these ideas presented and these arguments in your paper to support your argument. No problem, do that. But the only problem is it's really, really long. You don't want to copy paste this 2-page quotation into your paper. So what you do is you summarize, right? That's taking a longer argument and putting it into fewer words, right? In your own words, right? But basically shrinking it down. This is really great when you want to record a broad overview of an author's idea, right? If there's like something general, you want to take a little piece of it and use that. So for example, to summarize the movie Snakes on a Plane, you might write this. Neville Flynn escorts a witness onto a plane headed for Los Angeles. Problem is, an assassin, you get it, right? This is a summary of the movie. So when you're summarizing, think of this. If you just went to see a movie in the theater and you're home and you're telling your parents or your friend about it, what are you going to say, right? That's a summary. That's exactly what a summary means. Hopefully you know this. Here's another summary of the movie. This is a summarization. All right, there you go. What is it again? It's much shorter than the original. We know that. It should contain all the main ideas, right? You can't really have a good summary if you're leaving out key ideas, or especially if you leave out one certain idea that would change the entire meaning of this argument, right? So you want to be ethical about this. Don't skimp on your summary, but it should be shorter, right? And it should be objective. You don't want to add your opinion into this. When you're summarizing a long statement into a shorter one, Don't insert your own information to make it to tell us, the reader, what you think about it, or to bias us. Just give us the summary of that author's, the other author's argument. Here's another summary. It's a totally different summary of the movie, Snakes on a Plane, but it also does the job. It's longer. Maybe it includes a lot more of the plot points, which would be a better summary. But then again, it's also longer. So is someone going to read it? It's a judgment call, right? It's an art. Here's an example. Students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes, and as a result, they overuse quotations in the final paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted matter. I think I've said that before. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source materials while taking notes, right? And transcribing means copying word for word. That is a 50-word paragraph, right? And the main ideas are kind of highlighted in this, what is that, magenta, I think, color. Now, if you were to summarize that, it might look like this. Much shorter, 22 words. And by the way, you've used an in-text citation properly, which is great. Here it is. Students should take only a few direct quotations from sources to help minimize the amount of quoted material in a research paper. You're basically saying the same thing in less than half the words. Fantastic, right? We've successfully summarized the passage. Take note, you still need an in-text citation and a reference, corresponding reference at the end of your paper, even if when you're summarizing, right? It's still borrowed material. It's still not your idea or your words, so you must cite it. Okay, related to summarization is something called paraphrasing. This is not just shortening something and collecting the main ideas. It's restating it in a different way to essentially increase clarity. You're not saying the same thing, you're just saying it in a different way. So here's an example. When you paraphrase, you follow much more closely to the author's original presentation, but you still restate it in your own words. Yes, this is key. You're using your own words. This is not, we're just picking the author's words and making them shorter. We're actually using our own words. This is really helpful when you want to kind of use the author's reasoning or their argument, but it doesn't quite fit the way that they've said it. You can say it in a different way and it'll present the same idea, but it's more beneficial to your paper. Or sometimes you paraphrase when something is too technical or too wordy, right? So again, you're rewriting the author's original idea or line or text or voice or whatever it is. You're rewriting that original statement so it flows better. It doesn't necessarily have to be reduced in length to paraphrase. It can be actually longer. You can just be saying it in a different way for a purpose that fits your objective. And usually paraphrasing interprets something. So you've got these 3 sentences of text from an author. It's not quite clear what that maybe means because it's set in a larger context in the original work. So what you want to do is interpret it. You want to help the reader of your paper understand what it is you're saying. Perfect example here. This couple from who knows when. That shirt could be from the 80s or it could be from today, right? It's who knows. Fashion is cyclical. So the woman's saying, "I like rats, bats, squirrels, and rabbits." Right? Okay. Weird thing to say on a date. Looks like a first date, perhaps, or maybe it's their 1-year anniversary. Who knows? I don't see a wedding ring. So the guy's saying, "Oh, so what you're saying is you like small animals, right?" He hasn't really taken any of her language, but he has paraphrased. He has restated this in a different way, interpreted what she said, and stated it so that someone else might understand. She likes small animals, okay? Weird thing to say. But what this will do is show if you're doing this in conversation, it will show the other person you're talking to that you care about what they're saying and that you're understanding it, right? It'll build a bond as well. That's a little pro tip. So how do you write a paraphrase? Number one, obviously read the passage that you're trying to figure out and understand it. If you don't understand it, it's going to be very hard to paraphrase. And in order to understand it, you might need to look up some of the words. So, hey, the dictionary is your friend. And then think about how you might want to use this passage in your own work, in your own essay or assignment. Then step away from it. Think about it. Think about how you might want to use it, and then go away. Do something else. Wash the dishes or play the tuba. Who knows? look away from it, and then you come back and try to restate the author's point in your own words, right? So here's a thing you do not want to do when you're paraphrasing. Never scan line by line, only changing the odd word. This is setting up for plagiarism. This is how I got in big trouble in grade 5 for my book report for plagiarizing. I didn't know what I was doing. No one ever told me about plagiarism. So they said, hey, write a book report on this book about the Spanish Armada. So what I did was, back in the early 90s, I had a computer, which was fancy and new, and had thesaurus built into it. So I went and I typed out the original of the book, copied it word for word, but I changed a few words with the thesaurus, thinking, hey, this is what they are asking for, right? No, I got in big trouble. My parents were upset. So you don't want to do that, please. Here's an example. The cat jumped on the car. Fine, that's the original. You don't want to say the feline leapt on the automobile. All you've done is change a few words, right? By the way, turn it in is very good. It'll probably catch something like that. You can't just change a word here or there and expect to get away with plagiarism. Also, this is really, it sounds awkward. We know when it sounds awkward, we're going to go look it up on Google if you've copied this or not. So don't just change a few words. That's not how you paraphrase. Here's an example of how to do it well. Excuse me. This is the same exact quote from before. So if instead of summarizing, this time we're going to paraphrase it. So basically it's about how you should only use 10% of your manuscript should be quoted. This is a different way to say it. It's paraphrased. In research papers, students often quote excessively, failing to keep quoted material down to a desirable level. Since the problem usually originates during note-taking, right, when you're in class or watching a lecture video, it is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. Verbatim meaning word for word, right? So, okay, this one's a little bit longer than the summarization from a few slides back. It's saying it in a different way, but this might be better for your purposes, right? So this is the value of paraphrasing. Again, you still need an in-text citation and pair that with a reference entry at the end of your paper, right? So which we have right here, Leicester, 1976, page 46 to 47. Beautiful. So maybe after all this, you still say, well, okay, now I know more about what the professor's looking for. I can get away with plagiarism better. I don't think that's the case, but hey, let me tell you why students plagiarize. I know this because I always talk to students who plagiarize and ask them what happened. Usually it's stress. Oh, I didn't know how to do this assignment. I left it till the last minute. They panic because, hey, I left it till the last minute, so I can't do the research. I've got to go copy something. Lack of self-confidence, like I don't think my arguments are very good. That's nonsense. Kick that to the curb. You have something valuable to say, and you just keep practicing, and your arguments will improve. Lack of self-confidence and pride, guilt, or ethics. Some people just don't have any ethics. Nobody in our class is a sociopath, I'm sure, but still, these are reasons why people plagiarize. Laziness is certainly a factor. Oh, I didn't want to do it. I was out with my buddies. I was drinking all night. Too bad, man. Like, you got to get this done. This is why you're in school. Ignorance. This is the accidental plagiarism when it happens. I forgot to put quotation marks around that. The effect is still the same. It's still an academic penalty. I have zero tolerance, as I've said. So don't be ignorant about it. Please pay attention to this stuff. Self-delusion. Oh, I'll get away with it. Oh, it's fine. No, I don't need to cite this. Oh, that's my own idea. Yeah, no, don't do that. Let me tell you about what tools I have. And you have a certain access to this as well. Turnitin.com. Fantastic tool. Basically catching thieves red-handed. I know about schoolsucks.com. That was around when I was in university in the early 2000s. I know about All Free Essays. I know about turnpapersmonthly.com. This paper that you can buy, The Effects of Immigration to Western Canada in the World War I era and afterward. I don't know how popular that would be, but anyway, $60. $60. It's probably more now, but people are charging. There's a market out there for this because people are lazy or ignorant or waiting till the last minute. This paper is probably already on Turnitin, right? It's probably been flagged already. What is Turnitin? It's a brilliant service that I would say probably almost every university and college in the world uses. It will scan student papers that are uploaded. So when you put a submission to the Dropbox, automatically gets checked against all student papers going back for decades. It gets checked against all of Google, all of journal articles, magazine articles, etc. It's looking for language that's either verbatim or similar, and it usually finds it. Right? It's very good at this. And if Turnitin doesn't find it, I'll find it because I'm pretty good at it. So you'll get at the end of this a percentage point, right? And an originality report, it's called. Blah, blah, blah. You can read this if you like. I just said basically that. This is what I see, sort of. Okay, this person submitted this work, and 29%, what do they call this? It's similarity, right? So that means that 29% of this paper, by word, is copied from somewhere else. Ooh, that's bad. That's probably indicating some plagiarism at least. And unfortunately, it's only one line is enough to get you plagiarized, and the whole assignment gets a 0, and you get an academic offense form. So just don't do it. If you're above 10%, something's wrong. You should be able to see your Turnitin score for every assignment. If you get more than 10%, come find me. Now, there's certain exceptions. Some assignments I give out, there's like a template and you're just filling that in. So it's going to flag all the stuff in the template. It's not extremely smart. It will flag all of your references as being, published somewhere before, because, the APA format is standard. It's going to have shown up somewhere else before. Obviously, I don't worry about that. Common language, like in a resume, if it's thank you for your consideration, that always gets flagged, but I know it's just a standard boilerplate line. It's not plagiarism. I get it. But still, if you're over 10%, see me or email me. What do we have here? Yeah, this is more of what I see. So if I click into one of these assignments, it'll highlight for me what lines in your paper were plagiarized and from where. So I can click through here. It'll give me the exact website, and you get a 0, right? So don't do it. This one, okay, this might have been a quote, but hey, it's not inside quotation marks, and it's not source. So unfortunately, this person either forgot it or did it intentionally. Not good. How much plagiarism is too much? 29, 15, 10? It's really a judgment call, but if you get more than 10 on your Turnitin report, please come find me ASAP. And this means, like, after the deadline, sorry, nothing I can do. You got to come to me right away, and don't leave us to the last minute, right? Don't submit your assignments at 11:55 p.m., right? Because that can't help you. Yeah, even so, remember how my grade 5 book report, I changed a few words here and there. Too bad, Turnitin is going to catch this, right? These few words have been changed, but we can see that the mass of it is still the same here as well. So even this is 2 words changed, it's still catching it. Okay, here's an example of the opposite. This was a 15% plagiarism score, but rheumatoid arthritis is defined as da 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 da. That's fine. It's a definition. That shouldn't change. It's something you can find elsewhere. You don't need to necessarily quote this. You probably should, just to show me where you got it from, but it's a standard definition, right? So there's no need to worry about plagiarism there. What happens when you plagiarize? As I've said, I submit an academic offenses form. They're all online now. It's easier to do, actually. I have to do this, unfortunately. It's part of my contract. First time you get caught, it's the 0. Second time, it's 0 in the course. Third time, it's possible expulsion from Fanshawe. Okay, and that's out of my hands. That's with the dean. Yeah, so this is what my form looks like. Okay. So what's the solution? Check first, get your Turnitin score when you submit. If there's anything weird looking, come check with me. If you have summarized incorrectly, you may have to go back and revise, right? So, you might have to just proofread and make sure you're using quotation marks, citations, etc. Again, after the assignment deadline, it's too late. And yeah, it's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility to check for you, it's yours. Okay, so yeah, I know a bit heavy that lecture. I don't really enjoy doing this, but I want to make sure you know what's appropriate, what's not, how to avoid plagiarism, so there's no issues. Honestly, it takes a lot of time for me, a lot of time for you to deal with this stuff. So let's make sure we're using APA properly, which was one of the subjects this week, and citing everything properly. If you have a question, Hey, I'm here. I get your emails as soon as they come in, right? I'm always on my phone. So please, please check with me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours at least. All right. Thanks. And good luck with the work this week. Have a good one.